Hi, my name is Jim Kurtz with Harvest Harmonics. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to be discussing a brand new technology for agriculture that's revolutionizing and revitalizing the agricultural industry worldwide. In fact, this new breakthrough in biophysics is allowing us to increase crop yields, reduce input costs, and improve the quality of fruits and vegetables on every crop we've tested this on. So let's get started. So Harvest Harmonics is the international distributor for the Kyminasi plant booster technology and the Kyminasi plant booster line of products. Our mission here at Harvest Harmonics is to help farmers improve the quality of fruits and vegetables that they're producing, to reduce their petrochemical and other input costs, and to improve their yields so that they can make more money while producing better quality fruits and vegetables for all of us. The Kyminasi plant booster is based upon biophysics applied to agriculture. Now, biophysics simply means we're taking the laws of physics and applying it to biological systems. Now, we start this by looking at the cell. Each living cell of a particular type will have a specific function within the larger organism. And that cell, in order to function properly, has certain processes within it. And those processes have to be timed a certain way so that everything and around it and everything of its function will operate according to its function within the larger organism. Now, when a cell is healthy, it will give off frequency signals that are of a particular type. And that frequency pattern will be consistent from cells of the same type. However, when we look at the same type of cell that's not healthy, we can measure its frequency output and notice that the frequency patterns exhibited by those cells are distorted and altered. Now, when we look at the broader picture of a living organism, for example, a human being, a bird, insects, or even plants, we can measure hundreds and sometimes even thousands of these processes within the organism. And we can do that at the cellular level. For example, in plants, the inventor of this technology has discovered over 3,000 unique frequencies that are exhibited by the cells of a plant during its normal biological functions. Mr. Fulvio Baumelli, the inventor of the Kyminasi plant booster technology, is a medical researcher who has a clinic in Como, Italy. He'd been studying and applying biophysics to humans and human diseases in order to come up with healing techniques that do not use chemicals and do not use drugs, but is able to be very effective in bringing people back to health. However, he discovered that the common denominator of all human illness is actually poor nutrition. As a result, he decided to devote his life to studying plant physiology and unlocking the secrets of how to stimulate plant production and making the fruits and vegetables that we eat healthier by helping the farmer grow healthier fruits and vegetables. And over 20 years of research, he was able to unlock over 3,000 unique frequency patterns that are associated with the biological system in a plant. So when we take a look at the plant itself, for example, this sunflower, we notice that, again, certain plants of a certain variety will have frequency patterns. Again, over 3,000 frequency patterns will go into the biological processes of photosynthesis in a plant. When that flower is healthy and the plant as a whole is healthy, it will exhibit very orderly, organized frequency patterns that can be measured with our biophysical equipment. When we looked at unhealthy plants of the same varieties, we noticed that the frequency patterns or the output signals of the biological processes in these stressed plants were altered and distorted. And we represent this by the distorted wave you see underneath the sunflower here. Now, this does not just apply to flowers. We've tested hundreds of varieties of plants, from flowers to grasses, to trees, to row crops, and virtually every type of plant you can imagine. And we discovered that plants of the same type all have a very consistent photosynthesis process. And that process does not change very much from one plant variety to another. So Mr. Baumelli theorized that if he was able to apply directly the 3,000 plus frequencies associated with healthy plants to unhealthy or stressed plants, then the unhealthy plants should be recovering their biological functions and should begin to become healthy again. And over hundreds of experiments that he conducted over the years, he determined that that's exactly what happens. Simply by harmonizing the frequency output patterns of the cellular functions in plants, we're able to re-stimulate the plants back to a state of health and get them producing and becoming healthy again without adding more water or more nutrients or any other factor. Now, the interesting thing is we are not adding nutrients to the soil. We are not adding water or other types of inputs. We are simply making the plant's biological functions more efficient so that the plant can utilize the resources available to it in the most efficient way and produce the highest quality and highest yield possible under the current conditions. The end result is a plant that's very resilient to weather fluctuations, insect pressures, diseases, and fungal outbreaks, which would normally severely detract and severely harm the plant and reduce its production, and maybe even kill it in some circumstances. I'm sure you can look back on certain years and say, that year was a bad year because I had excess rain, or it was cloudy, or it was a heat wave, or various other factors. And you can look at other years and say, that was a really good year, where we really got a good production, everything went perfect, didn't have any pressures, and the weather was nice, and we got a really good yield out of it. Well, what if the Kyminasi plant booster can help your plants have a good year every year, no matter what the weather or external factors are involved in that year? The plant's going to be more resilient and produce more and have better quality. And over time, you'll notice that you don't have to add as much inputs, especially fertilizers, as you normally would. So what is the Kyminasi plant booster in terms of a product? The Kyminasi plant booster is a revolutionary technology which utilizes a farmer's irrigation system. We have pre-made pipe fittings like you see here, or we can attach right to the outside of your existing pump or water source. And essentially every time you water the crops, our system is going to be sending signal patterns that harmonize with the plant's natural biological functions. And the plant will begin to grow stronger, healthier, faster, and produce more fruits and vegetables. The Kyminasi plant booster is installed, again, right on the outside of a pump or water source, as you see here in the picture on the left, and that's our CEO, Frank Arlia. Or we have smaller devices for nurseries, greenhouses, and other applications where you can essentially plumb this right into your line and treat the designated area. So the ultimate question is, well, where is the Kyminasi plant booster installed? And the simple answer is wherever you want to see results. The benefits of the Kyminasi plant booster include improving photosynthesis efficiency in plants. So again, the plant is going to generate the most amount of energy possible given the current conditions. And the second thing we're noticing on a number of our farms is improved soil health. We're improving microbial activity in the soil, electrical conductivity in the soil, and reducing sodium concentrations in high sodium soils. And we're also noticing better water retention characteristics in most soils as well. With better photosynthesis efficiency, we're seeing stronger, more vigorous growth, greater flower and fruit production, and better quality as well. I'll give you a few examples of what we're seeing here. On this dragon fruit nursery, we saw a 100% faster growth rate on these dragon fruits from the cuttings to full size. Now, this particular grower is selling them to garden chains such as Home Depot and other garden centers. And he's noticed that his growth time went from 10 weeks down to 5 weeks. And we see here in the picture that the Kyminasi plant booster is not only larger, but it's also much greener, much healthier than the control or untreated plant here. We've seen increased disease resistance against rust fungi and a greater vigor in coffee production. Now, this is down in Colombia, and we all know about Colombian coffee, right? These farmers actually held a party in our honor because they were so happy with the effects of the Kyminasi plant booster. They were having a rust problem where this type of mold was getting on the coffee, and of course it was ruining production and causing them to have to waste quite a bit of what they were growing. With the Kyminasi plant booster, the coffee trees produced more abundant foliar development and were much, much healthier. And as a result, the plants were more resilient and they were able to save a lot more of their berries than they otherwise would. In fact, over time, the fungus actually was completely wiped out and they were able to get a full crop for the first time in many years. In turmeric production, we see greater vigor and again, 100% increase in overall production. These turmeric plants are growing taller, from 24 inches tall up to 60 inches tall. And of course, that increased growth is just giving the plants more surface area for photosynthesis, which in turn generates more energy and results in more fruit and vegetable production. In this case, the tuber of the turmeric. You see greater vigor and 35% increase in foliage of corn in Colombia. Now, this is one of 2 corn farms we have in Colombia. And here we have the Kyminasi plant booster here on the top, and you see how heavy the foliage and how dense these plants are growing, versus on the bottom with the what we call a testigo, or essentially the control area. And you see how these plants are just not growing as fast, they're not growing as tall, and as such, they're just not getting the kind of production. Now, we see pictures here in just a side-by-side comparison of the Kyminasi plant booster, which is being, again, marketed as the crop booster in South America. And we see how much denser the foliage is versus the control plants here on the right. In orange trees in California, we see 100% faster growth rate of citrus seedlings from 1-year-old seedlings, which are outgrowing 2-year-old seedlings in his neighbor's farm. Now, these neighboring fields are managed by the same company, so they have the same inputs, same water, same variety, same soil type, everything else was kept consistent. Yet the Kyminasi plant booster with 1-year-old seedlings had already outgrown the control field on the left here in a matter of only 6 weeks of watering. So you have a 1-year-old seedling here on the right, and you see how tall and well developed that is, versus a 2-year-old seedling here on the left. And you see it's still barely growing halfway up the truck here. It's not even looking that healthy. It's actually looking like it's got some heat damage as well. Kyminasi is totally healthy. On artichokes, you've seen a 50% reduction in nematodes in the soil with a 27% increase in yield in Peru. We saw 3 times more vigorous corn growth in Colombia on a field trial that we were running with the Santander University. In fact, the white paper on this was just completed, and we should be sending this to peer review very shortly. But if you can imagine this farmer's excitement when he's seeing 12 to 13 foot tall corn plants, and he's seeing 3 times more vigorous growth. Now they're using this for fodder, so they're very happy with how much growth they're getting. In fact, at the point where we took this, we noticed 2 ears of corn per stalk, whereas the control at the time had no ears yet. It had barely begun to tassel. So we're seeing a lot more corn production as well as improved foliar production. In this particular table grape farm, we saw a reduction in mite infestations from 48% down to less than 10%. And here's the agronomy report that showcases those differences here. And we saw 30% more root development with 33% more vigor and 23% higher profit in Thompson grapevines in Chile. Here we have the farmer telling us that he's getting $1.80 per kilogram on the treated grapes versus only $1.46 on the control. On squash plants in Washington State, we see squash plants that are growing 4 feet off the ground with an 18% increase in production on squash. Now, again, most squash are vines, so they're slinking along the ground, and you won't see them usually getting above 6 inches or maybe a foot tall. These are literally waist high at 4 feet off the ground because they're so healthy and so productive. We saw a reduced presence of nematodes and fungus in rice in Ecuador, and you see the difference in fresh weight between the treated plant on the right versus the control plant on the left. And we saw an improvement in heat stress and an improved growth in strawberries in Ecuador. And you can see here on the left, the Kyminasi plant booster plants are much healthier, they're greener, they're looking very good. And the heat stress is causing the control or untreated plants here on the right to be very sporadic and very brown and not doing very well. As a result, the strawberries started growing faster with Kyminasi, and they produced about 35% more overall. This particular example was in Washington State, where Art Heineman was running a side-by-side comparison on tomatoes. Well, he got a cold snap, which caused a fungus to come into this high tunnel. And unfortunately, it wiped out all the control plants, so we didn't get a good side-by-side yield comparison. However, the Kyminasi plants did survive, and he was able to get a full crop out of them, as opposed to nothing out of the control group. On this particular lemon trees, we have a much enhanced root growth and root density. And you can see here on the left in this picture how much denser and thicker and wider the root structure is on these trees versus the control, which are much thinner and less dense. And when you looked at the trees themselves, they're much greener, much healthier, much happier looking than the control plants on the bottom here, which are much paler and just an average tree. In this particular example, we had a hurricane come through. We were doing an indoor experiment with a side-by-side, one planter treated, one planter not, and the planters were literally right next to each other on a time-lapse system. Yet when we came back after 5 days, after being evacuated from the hurricane, we noticed that the untreated planter had thousands and thousands of these little fungus gnats all throughout the planter, all over the plants, all throughout the soil, and no insects on the Kyminasi plant booster. So huge, huge differences there. And if you want to see our video, you can go on our YouTube channel and check it out, because it was pretty exciting as we walked through and showed how many insects were all over the untreated planter versus the Kyminasi, which had nothing. On these cabbage plants, we actually regrew these cabbage plants after 60 days of winter. So we left these out on the terrace after doing an initial experiment to compare the different versions of the technology during the research and development phase. And you see, obviously, in Tech 6, which is our current version, it's much larger, much healthier than even the other ones. But the real note here is after 60 days of snow and harsh weather and everything else, the control or untreated plants were completely dead. They had nothing left. All the Kyminasi plants, even the ones from earlier versions of the technology, all stayed alive and were able to regrow their leaves after the weather started warming up again. On turf and grass, we've seen turf come back to life after being completely decimated on the soccer field. And you can see how brown and sparse this grass was. Well, after just 11 days, it came back to being totally green and healthy again and was able to be used again for soccer. And here in this park, we saw a similar example where the grass was very pale and very unhealthy looking versus after 11 days, much healthier and coming back to life here. In tangerine seedlings, we see an increase in growth rate over only a 26-day period where the Kyminasi plant booster is growing about twice as tall. And you can see here all the yellow on the top, that's new growth. That's basically, we're showing how much new growth the Kyminasi plant booster is creating in these tangerine trees versus the other trees where the leaves haven't even opened yet. In another example here on cherry trees, this cherry farmer had been trying to grow cherries for 3 years unsuccessfully. And here we see a 50% increase in root volume here with Kyminasi plant booster versus control. And after 4 months, you can kind of see the difference. In fact, I'll show you the next one here. We started here on the left. That's what all the trees or the seedlings look like. After 1 month, the Kyminasi plant booster had already grown lots of branches and leaves versus the control, which had very little growth. And after 4 months, you see the Kyminasi trees already had a full canopy growing and were already very well on their way to maturity versus the control, which again just had barely grown a couple of branches and still was looking very unhealthy. Here on broccoli, we have a hailstorm, which basically caused the untreated plants here on the left to stop growing for about a week and a half. The Kyminasi plants kept growing and kept producing, and they're now about 2 weeks ahead. Now, what this means basically is if you have weather fluctuations, which might throw off your timing in terms of your yields and when you want to harvest and everything else, Kyminasi plant booster will help mitigate those differences so that you're able to get your harvest out on time. And that's obviously going to help you on your bottom line to get the best bang for your buck in terms of sell price. We've seen an improvement in survival rate, and we had an extreme frost that killed a lot of tomato plants here on a side-by-side comparison we're running. In fact, the Kyminasi was selling at fresh weight prices for $20 a box versus only $2 a box on the untreated, which were basically shriveled up and could only be sold for canning at this point. Here we have increased vigor and a 97% increase on peppers in Peru. And you see the difference here. The Kyminasi plants are growing through the plants. They're filling in those spaces and they're basically allowing the plants to grow and produce lots more peppers. With increased yields, we're seeing, for example, 25% increase in melon production with less minor flies in Brazil. 49% increase in asparagus production. This is the largest asparagus grower in South America. We have a 26.7% increase in watermelon production at the University of Lima, Peru. We have a 33% increase in lentil production in India. We have a 97% increase in pepper production, like I mentioned, in Peru. And here I just wanted to show you the difference in the size of these peppers and how thick and lush they are. The peppers essentially are twice as heavy as the control peppers. And of course, we get about 20% more peppers. In India, again, we have a 20% increase in overall production on eggplants with less insect damage. We see a 16% increase in potatoes in Bolivia. We see a 97% yield increase on red grapes in Chile with over 65 grape clusters per plant, which was unheard of before. And they used to only get maybe 19 or 20. Now they're getting 60. 165% overall yield increase on Thompson grapes. This is a green table grape here in Chile, a 55% increase in yield on lime production in Colombia, a 30% yield increase and improvement of 5 degrees on bricks on the melons in the USA, a 32% increase in potatoes in Bolivia, 130% increase in potato production in Ecuador, an increased fruit size and improved disease resistance in grapes in Chile. Again, the Chilean grapes, I mean, are just doing incredibly well with this, and we want to help the American growers and growers in other countries as well. So if you're a grape grower, you should be already on the phone with us to get this technology on your farm. We have a 70% increase in overall bell pepper production with 25% increase in size. And you see here on the right, the Kyminasi was much larger, much thicker as well. 87% increase in pepper production in Peru. Again, this is a different type of pepper here. 18% increase in peppers in the United States here. And the farmer really was telling us how good the quality was. That's what he was most impressed with. 18% increase in hydroponic cucumber production here in Russia. 100% increase in yield on strawberries in Ecuador. 25 to 30% increase in alfalfa, kale, and spinach in South Africa. And you can see here in the picture, not only are we getting much higher germination percentage, but we're also much greener, much denser in the chlorophyll than the untreated plants here. 62% increase in forage of a pasture in Ecuador. And this basically allowed him to improve his milk production. And they're really telling us that they're going to get a lot more milk production out of their cows due to the improved quality of the pasture as well. In fact, here in Ecuador, we saw 100% yield increase on milk and dairy cows just by watering their pasture with Kyminasi. It's making the grass healthier for the cows, and they're obviously producing more milk. In fact, I think they're doing 6 liters per cow per day now, more than they were before, which translated to about 140 liters per day over the whole herd here. Another one here, 100% increase in yield and forage on a pasture in Ecuador, again for cattle. They're remarking that their beef cattle is much healthier looking than they ever were before. 33% increase in carrots and onions, 81% increase in overall greater growth of fodder corn in Ecuador. And here they're reporting to get 86 tons per hectare versus only 45 to 50 tons is their average. And you can see in this picture, these corn plants are 14 feet tall. I mean, they're huge differentials. And again, this white paper and case study should be sent to peer review pretty soon here as well. A 56% increase in exportable blueberries in Chile, which improves the quality of the blueberries, not just the quantity. In terms of other quality ratings, we have a 25% increase in cherry production, where the farmer is also telling us that he's getting an extra $1 per kilogram on his cherries. And overall, that translated to $46,953 per hectare more for the farmer. So if you have a high value crop like cherries, you're going to be making a ton of money with the Kyminasi plant booster. Here we have on plums a 5-point increase in Brix rating in just the last 4 weeks before harvest here on this trial. We have an improved quality in overall size of blueberries here in Peru. We have an improved quality in organic grapes here, where we see a huge differential in quality and quantity. And he also got to harvest earlier, which means he made more money from that. A 40% increase in overall Brix rating of peppers in the USA from 6 up to 10, which is huge. An improved Brix rating on grapes here in the United States as well, where we're seeing going from 19 to 25 on the Brix scale on these table grapes. This was done without fertilizer, by the way. And then back here, an improved fruit quality and plant growth on oil palms. And of course, for palm trees, they want to grow oil, so that they want these trees to grow fast. So we got huge differences there. And improved shelf life, better vigor, and better extended growth season of peppers. Now, one of the things we're seeing is we're extending the growth season into deeper and deeper into the season. So whereas normally you might stop because of cold or frost, the Kyminasi plant boosters are able to get you those late peppers or late varieties and still get a good yield out of it. This particular example was a rose experiment where we actually saw new growth in the rose over 30 days after the rose was picked. Now, this is a very unusual, obviously. Usually you might get new growth for a couple of days, but we were still seeing new growth and new leaf production on these cut rows after 30 days after being cut. And in terms of soil improvement and reduction, improvement in the use of water, let's take a look at the soil health. We did mention that last time. So what we're seeing is better microbial activity in the soil, better electrical conductivity in the soil, and better water retention and infiltration into the soil as well. So as a result, farmers are telling us that they're decreasing the amount of water required to water their crops, and they're seeing a better tolerance to salty or brackish water as well. This particular example, we had a 300% faster soil water infiltration rate, and the farmer told us that he used 65% less water to water these almonds than he did before. This particular grape farm had a better drought tolerance, and we increased the yield by 75% over the non-treated farms in the region. And we have, again, you can go to our website and check out the farmer's testimonial on that as well. Here we have a 46% reduction in water usage with a 30% yield increase on walnuts and chili. And really just take a look at the two pictures. You see how damaged and dying these trees were before we got to them. And with the Kyminasi, the foliage came back, the canopy came back, they produced more, and they actually used less water than the control plants here. Now, 50% reduction in fertilizer usage to improve vigor in flowers here. Now, we've had some comments from flower growers saying that they're worried that it has too much vegetative growth. We're not seeing that at all. We're seeing greater flower production. You know, the plants will know when to start putting out flowers, and they'll put out more flowers because they have the energy to do so. This particular greenhouse, we saw 0% agrochemical use and 100% yield increase on paprika peppers. Here we have, again, 0 pesticides used and 100% increase in tomato production with better quality here in Colombia. We see 100% faster soil infiltration rate with cherries down in Chile, 300% faster water infiltration rate and a reduction in water use of almonds. And here's the agronomist report in how much water they were using. 47% increase in soil cation ion exchange here in tomatoes in the USA. This is done in Washington. You see we went from actually a 12 rating of about 12 up to 21 on the final soil test here. So the untreated went down in CEC while the treated went up over that 6-week period. Again, here we show 13.3 versus 21.9, so 65% increase in CEC in the soil here itself. With reduction in soil conductivity here in Chile, we're seeing it went from a high range of 2.3 and to a standard range of 1.7, and from a high range in sodium concentration from 1.1, which was high, down to a 0.6, which was average. And in summary, guys, we're seeing more yield, we're seeing more fresh weight, improved disease and insect resistance, greater vigor, better Brix rating, better overall quality ratings in fruits and vegetables, and we're seeing better soil health and soil conductivity as well. So I want to just give you guys a quick overview here in the United States, and I think this, I'm not sure if this has been completely updated, but we have over 600 farms in the last 2 years jumping on board with this. We have, I believe, 33 or 34 university trials already underway, with another probably 100 to 200 slated for this year in 2022. And really at this point, I just want to open it up for your questions. What questions do you have at this point? I want to allow you guys to give us a call and follow up with us. We want to actually have a consultation and a free cost benefit analysis for you and your farm. So it's a free service we do. We always want to make sure that the farmers are making more money with Kyminasi. So give us a call at 727-324-6750. You can also email us at service@harvestharmonics.com or go to our website and check out more case studies and get a deeper dive into the science and exactly how this works at harvestharmonics.com. You can fill out a request for quote form there as well. But I'd like to meet with you and help you improve the quality of your farm and improve the production of your farm. And of course, what we're all looking for is an improvement in the overall health and production of the quality of the fruits and vegetables so that everybody gets to eat healthier. So give us a call and let's work together and get you on the farm so you can become part of the future of farming today. Have a great day.